Hi everyone, welcome to another Disney Infinity tutorial. This is a continuation from my pirate toy box that I've been building, which is a big giant sea battle. And if you've been following the last 4 clips, what we've done here is we've created this lovely logic with most probably complicated thing we've done to date of this giant sea battle of them firing bombardments between each other. And we've created these number little buttons here on our island to test the logic to see if the things work before actually making it into the system. What we'll do is it's going to basically be a game, and I keep talking about the game, but we actually haven't set the components of what makes it a game. So that's what I'm concentrating on this clip. This clip is going to basically how we set it up to actually be a game, which will then allow me to finish off with the last one I keep promising on how to sink the battleship. Now you'll see the 2 buttons we've got here is one is a reset button and one is a button that allows to move the ships one place to the next. Now when we press the reset button, the ships go back to their starting point on the paths. But that's not where the logic goes. The logic is where certain key points on their circuit that they use. But what you'll notice is that the collectibles are appearing, but they're not disappearing. So as the ships move round, they're not clear on screen. Now we want this button that when we finish a game, we press the reset button and the whole thing clears off the system. Okay, so what we need to do is need a little bit of tidying up. So as you'll see here, I'm just going to set these boats going round just to show it moving around. So press them again. And we've set in my previous clips all the various logics that when these boats reach certain points on their paths, they will show the collectibles. And when you collect those collectibles, it will then show targets. So they're all self-triggering now. The game is now in itself, they link to themselves due to the adventure. So what we want to do is we actually want to say, hold on, I want to clear this all off. I want to set the ships back. So set them back, but the collectibles are still in the air. And the reason I'm making a big thing of this is when we're playing our challenge, we want to start a new game, so we've got to clear everything off. So let's go into our Spark mode, and what we're going to do now is we're going to delete the objects we use to test our areas. So these 4 buttons to test the bombardment, yeah, to check that everything worked, they can now go. So I'm just going to delete these out. Okay, they're gone. Right. Now this button is our reset button, but we need to do more work on this, okay? And so what I need to do is I need to review what that button does, and I can't recall it. So let's pull the button down under our map and let's trace where the thing goes. Okay, so I'm bringing it down underneath to see all our logic. So if I go back into Spark mode, I'm going to point to it, it just does one thing. It just sends one signal into that logic gate. Okay, that's easy enough. So we look at the logic gate, there's 3 areas. 2 go to the boats, which says reset and play, and 1 goes to this logic gate. And if you look at that logic gate, you go, where's it? What was that logic gate that we created? And that was the logic gate that we used to hide the orbs that are inside the boat, the actual cannon fire that does the broadside attack. Now, one thing I didn't show, and I don't think I did in the other clip, is that we had a level starter. So we've got a reset button that goes onto the screen, but we created a level starter. I don't think I showed you that. And what that level starter is, when the game starts, can you fire a signal into there that resets the orb? But it also sends a signal all the way back to this central point here, and that says reset everything, and that logic gate clears off all the items. So what we need to do here is that when we manually press a reset button, which goes into this logic gate, I need to use a connection to that main one that we created in our previous clip. So I'm going to do a new logic connection on output, yeah, and we're going to set that into the center of this grid. And can we then click onto the center, and that's our massive one. It's got about 90 connections that resets everything. So can we input a signal in there? Now another key thing to be wary of here is, look how we've set this up. This is my starting point, yeah, this is the logic starting point. I've got all the other logics around the side, which is bombardment, and the center bit was the other. So again, all comes down to organizing. Right, allows us to trace us back, so we can now put this clip back into its place. Okay, so if I go back out of Spark mode, so careful not to delete it, which is always an issue. Okay, but what we see is we've got all those logic now set up on the screen, and the issue we're going to say is when we press that button, yeah, it will clear everything off. So let's come out of here now, like I keep mentioning it. Always paranoid I'm going to delete something. So let's get out of the one. So there's all our objects on the screen. The ships move around, they're no problem at all. Okay, so if I press the reset button, it now resets and all the objects gone. So we are now ready for a brand new challenge, and now a new fight with each other. Okay, so the first button we've got on the left there, that can go in a moment. We don't need that. Cool. So I'm still in my Spark mode. So that there we're happy with, and we've now got all our connections up, they all reset. So what we're going to do now is we're going to track our score and keep them going. So as long as we've organised it, which we've done, our tracking bit should be quite straightforward. So what you see here is I'm going to go to here, and there's a challenge maker. Now these challenge makers you can't add any text to, so you're left with just the title. The text item won't allow you to write it anymore, which is a bit of a shame. So that's what I'm going to use on my creativity toys. Now in my toy box I used it for my master template. And those that haven't got this, I'm sorry you missed out on it, but I know some more of you just aware of this clip I did last year. But I've got one already created, and it's called basically a two-player challenge one. So let's just move this across. I'll try to put some generic wording that will pick it into the screen. So I'm just going to fit that there on the screen. That's the challenge. Yeah, that's going to be the bit that starts the game. So when our game finishes, we go back onto that point and we're going to start a game again. So every time we want to redo a challenge against a two-player game or a battle, we go back into here, and this is our restart. That's what's actually going to trigger these items off. Right, so let's go over here. So look, we'll see, we'll walk onto here, and as you walk onto it, it comes up, it says match challenge and start challenge. That's it. I made it as generic as possible because I didn't know what match challenge I'm going to do. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to set the logic up, what triggers that item off, what happens when we start this off, and we need to keep a score of how many times we shoot the ship and stuff like that on the screen. Okay, so that's our challenge marker. What we'll do now is we'll add some more logic and to set that up basically. But so far so good. Right, so as you'll see, I'm doing this all in one clip, so it's not too bad. Okay, so we'll go down here. As we look on our ship here, is again back to being organised. We have these as doing our reset, so we need something to keep a track of the score. And like I said, we've got our side bits for the bombardment, and we've got our centre bits all for those logic gates. So I again don't want to mess up our code. So I'm just going to click on this terrain. I'm going to keep it there, and I'm just going to move another piece here, and this one is going to be related to the score. So when I look back at this in a few weeks time, a month's time, I can find it and know that all the items on here relate to the scoreboard. Okay, so we'll come back to that in a moment. So let's go back to our logic toys. So let's go back to the wheel wand, unfiltered. And this is a little bit painful because we've got quite a bit of things on this screen now, and I can't flick through this quickly. You see that slow delay? Oh, it's driving me insane at the moment. But okay, so what we want here is we want the scoreboard component. Get there. There's the scoreboard. I'm just going to bring this down, keep it close. We're going to move it in a moment. Okay, I'm just going to put this here at the side. Okay, that's going to keep a track of player 1 and player 2. So in here we're going to do a new logic connection on our challenge maker, and we're going to do scoreboard. You'll see here results connection. So at the end of the challenge it will show you the score. Okay, so in there we've got our scoreboard, yeah, and we've linked it to our scoreboard. So when the game ends, it will then display what the current results are. So that's what that connection does. It just says the challenge end, it will show you what the current score is. Now if we go to the properties of this item, you'll notice that the default is 3. Okay, be wary of that. If you just want to keep a score going like a game of football or 20, you've got to change that to like 99. Yeah, I want it also to be displayed, and you've got the option to win by 2. But what you've got here is you've got to put what is your target, and in our particular case it is 3, so we're okay. But when I did my Spider-Man level, it was I've kept on forgetting it was 3. So when we were trying to collect how many people we'd collected on our screen. Now the issue we've got here is with our score is that when we press that button, I want to reset the score. Yeah, we're doing a completely brand new game. So when we press it, it goes into this particular logic. That's our reset button. That resets the boats, that resets the objects, that resets the collectibles. So what we can do from there is new logic connection on output. Can we reset the score? And do a reset. Now a couple of games I've done before where I've tried to do it all when you start a new game, I find I actually have a reset button. Makes it so much easier. So the player comes in, they'll press that button, all the objects move back to place, yeah, it resets the score, and we're ready to start our new challenge. Yeah, so we're okay with that, so that's good. So now we're going to grab that scoreboard and we're going to now move that out of the way, so we don't need it anymore. I'm now going to need to link it what triggers the score. So let's pull this down here. And let's bring that down into this part. Perfect. So we're just going to put that somewhere in the middle. I'll put it there at the moment. I'll have to rearrange it at the moment. Okay, right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get 2 more logic gates. Okay, put 2 logic gates, one for player 1 and one for player 2. Right, so these 2 items here are going to track the score. Okay, so what we're going to do is new logic connection on output of this logic gate. Can we increase the score by 1? So it says, right, can you increment by 1, yeah, for player 1. So the score is now increased for player 1. Now on this side, this is going to track player 2 score. So new logic connection on output, can we increment the score by 1 for player 2? Now we've got that set up, what we can do here is we can then say, right, what actually events in your story gives them a point? Is it scoring a goal? Is it driving through a gate? Is it defeating an enemy? Is it defeating a wave? Is it collecting a collectible? What is it that allows us to add 1 to the score? So we've got the 2 logic gates that now does that. All we've got to do is send a signal to it. So what we're going to do is, what do we know that we won? Well, we know if a player has won, it's not by the collectibles, it's when a bombardment is fired. And if we go back to our adventure we done earlier, this logic gate here for player 1, when you collect all, shoot all 5, it sends a signal which switches off the boat and then fires a bombardment, and player 2 switches off the boat and does a bombardment. So player 2 sets off this bombardment on the other side, and it's the same either way on the screen. So I use these logic gates on the end to trigger when you've won the screen, so it'll fire the bombardment. So that means I know player 1, if that goes off, player 1 has scored a round. Yeah. These logic gates in the middle are to do with the collectibles. It's the one on the end, and again I've organised it to remember which ones those are. So that's my counter for collectibles. This is the counter for the orbs. When we shoot the orbs, can we input a signal? So we can do from here, new logic connection, yeah, on output, can we do player 1? And as you notice, we kept player 1 to the left. Yeah. So increment, input a signal there. We'll input signal there. We do all the same. So same thing again. I'm going to go for all these logic gates and set those up. Now, although I'm doing it for this toy box, if you're not doing it for this one, you can do it for anything. Just set it up. What's your purpose that you're going to do? And my rule here is I've got all the scores coming into one area. And I would still do the logic gates because it makes it you to track what's happening when it goes across on the screen, and you can trace the link. There we go. Input a signal into here. Okay, so we got 3 now, so I can keep checking. Got 3, so it should be 4. And if you notice, by the way, the order I'm doing in, I'm trying to go from stick on I've always started on where the first boat is opposite the island. I've stuck with that, and I've gone all the way round. Now, some people say it's a bit just go any order, but I'm making sure I go in an order fashion so I don't forget or I connect the wrong one up. So I've made sure I've gone around, and there's my 4 connections that I've done. So what I now need to do now is now do it for player 2. So player 2 is on the end of my middle section, and it's always those on the right. So new logic connection on output, and again you'll notice I'm starting at the side of the ship next to the island. Yeah, keeping it in order so I don't get lost, don't get confused. Okay, so that's player 1. See, instantly I see, oh, I've only got to do 2, and you can easily connect the wrong one up. So when people keep telling me they're complicated, they are if you just scatter them around all over the place and then you're trying to work out what's joined where. It is impossible. Yeah, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to remember, like I've done 2 now, I've got to go to the screen, try and keep it in some sort of order. Okay, so if you're an organised person anyway, great, no problems. If you're not, and you're struggling to put things in order, that is what's going to be your downfall for creating these type of adventures. So you have to be strict with yourself and to say, right, let's keep them in different areas, let's line them out. Our positioning of these is also important, where I place these so that we can see those steps. They're not just all bundled in together, you'll never get to see them otherwise. Yep, so And hopefully by watching these clips you'll have seen these ones that why stressing about how important it is, how it does when you look back at building this, you're going to get yourself a really good invention. If you follow these steps, then you can see how it all lays out. Make sure, and also make sure you connect it to player 2, and player 2 is on the right, player 1 is on the left. Cool, so they are now got 4, that one's now got 4, they are now set up and they will now keep track of the score. So depending on where they've done, they'll shoot them across. Now I'm just going to move these back a bit, because obviously when we finish we're going to do the result, the score. Now what I want to do is once we get to the score, I want to actually sync the ship. And that's going to happen in another clip, so I'm going to have a separate trigger that does that. So I'm just moving these back, so I've got the scoreboard that I've done. Now what I'm going to do is I want to sync the ship, watch the person die on the other line, and then tell them they're a winner. So I'm going to just put a logic gate here. This logic gate I'm going to come back to in my next clip, because that is actually what's going to trigger the actual, when you get to score, that's what's actually going to trigger the boat to sink. So on that logic gate there, do a new logic connection. Not scoreboard, sorry, not score. Nope. You don't want that one. Come back out of there, cancel that. So it's new logic connection when target is reached. Yep. So you got player 1 wins. We don't want. We just win target's reached, because once someone gets to 3, game's over. And we'll know who's won because the other one's going to die. So we're going to input that signal there. Right, and we'll input that signal into that grid. So that is going to say we know once you're there, player 1, then we're going to use our logic to trigger off our so that's going to be our key bit that deals with the whole logic now with the boat sinking. But we'll come back to that moment. Just for this particular purposes, that is going to be used to say, right, the game is over. Yeah. So what we can do here is new logic connection. Right, on output. Yeah. Can we go up to the top? And what we can say now is, can we? Game's over. So in that section we can say we've completed the game. Ta-da! It's finished. Yeah. And what it will then do, it will automatically display the scoreboard because it's connected and tell you what the results are, which is not too bad. And that all's triggered from there on that screen. So that sets it up and sets that challenge across. Now, one thing of your notice here is that we have our map and our 2 boats are out in the middle of the sea. So what we do is when we start the challenge, we're going to have to get our people, our crew, onto the boats. So that's my next bit. Right? Let's make sure that we move them onto that particular part of the sea. So to do that, I'm going to need some locators. So let's go and grab a locator. I want 1 locator for player 1 and 1 locator for player 2. Okay, so let's just put 2 in front of the thing here, 1 and 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our challenge maker and we're going to say, right, can we connect that? So we're going to do a new logic connection on there. So new logic connection, and one of those options happens to be a locator. Okay, and we're going to point to that locator, first locator, and connect onto there. It says, right, okay, if that's a locator, who's locator for? And you've only got player 1 and everybody, or you've got player 2. So we're actually going to say player 1 and everybody at this particular moment. So we'll click onto that. Now if you don't do any other ones, everyone will start on that list. So we have to do the other side. So new logic connection. Alright, so new logic, and then we do new locator connection, and we do new locator. Now this time it says player 1's already been done, so this must be either for player 2, player 3 or player 4. Now we can't do online, so we can only do 2 players now, so those 3 and 4 no longer work. But what we can do is we're going to grab player 1 and then we're going to move player 1 onto the boat. So we're going to then move this, select on the move, and this boat, remember, has been reset, and then we're going to say we'll put it up so that boat will start to move. So we're going to put player 1 bang on the boat in the middle of the centre. Yeah, and then as soon as we go, the boat start moving, it will trigger it off. Cool, that's player 1, and we now do the same for player 2. And we move this all the way over here to player 2. Da-da-da. Cool. So those are now set, and that will set us on player 2. So we now have our game, we now know where the people are going to start. So the other question is, okay, this button here that you'll see, that moves the ships. Okay, so we're looking at here is it doesn't number a lot of objects, but it actually moves the actual boats. It also resets the cannons as well. It disables the ships. There's 4 options it does there. One of them is move the boat, and the other one is actually disable the cannons. I'm just going to move this down here on the screen. So what we can do is we move this down, we can then trace this particular button. So click off there. So we go, what does that button do? We can see the path a bit clear underneath. And you'll notice one of the paths is those logic gate underneath. We did 2 on the system. Right at the very beginning, my very first clip on how to do bombardment, we created these 2 logic gates which we now need to go back to. Yeah, and again we kept them in a position where we can find them. And we did on the left hand side, which was our start, and on the right hand side was our stop. Okay, so what I do is I'm just going to go back to me. In fact, I don't want to do any of that on there. I'll look at the connections here. I'm just looking at the connections, sorry. Come back out there for a second. Don't need to go there. Come out there. What I need to look here is, let's go over to the actual item. So this is where I'm going to the left. This one turned the boats on and off. Okay, and the other one, we go to the side, actually stops the boats. That's where it stops and starts. Okay, so we knew everything on life is our starter. So what I basically want to do is that button there triggers those items off, and it does it all the same on the other side. So let's bring that controller back. Now I don't want to control the boat sailing, so we're actually going to get rid of this button completely in a minute. I'm going to delete the whole thing off. See, that button is not needed at all. What we do need is actually to get these logic gates. So we're going to say here, right, new logic connection. Yeah, when the game has started. I missed it. Gone to it's higher. There's it. A little bit higher. When the game has started. Yeah, and you can use those other items to do different areas. I'm going to go down to that very first item that we set up, and we're going to say, right, can we input a signal into that? And by inputting a signal into that, actually moves the boat across. So we're going to input. That then starts the boat moving, and we've already set it up in the system. Once the boat starts moving, when it hits certain checkpoints within the story, it will then trigger other logic off. So we now have to go back to the game challenge marker. When game started, we have to set the other boat going, because both boats are on 2 separate paths. And instead of having to reconnect to the path, we can just go back to that logic gate, and it will refeed everything through there. So that's another reason why I sometimes don't go straight to the boat, because I can look at the logic and see where their connection is done. So we've now got the boats set up. The character will start on the game, and they will now start moving across. So that now sets that up. So when we go onto this challenge marker and we start it, they'll work. So this button here is no longer. I can go, so we can delete that. Let's delete that out. It's always nerve-wracking when you delete something, but you can always save versions of other items. So we're now left, basically, they're the 2 buttons on there. Ignore the button in the bottom corner. That was purely there for a test I was doing, so don't worry about that. Right, now, there was a reason why I created this island to be high up. Okay, I didn't want you to be able to just jump off the ship and go running over to the other side of the ship. Okay, and when the ship sinks, I want the person to die. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a checkpoint. Okay, and I'm going to set this checkpoint, can't put it there, but this checkpoint is that when player 1 sinks their ship and they actually die, they are going to be returned back to the island so they can offer another game. Okay, that's basically the point. Okay, so I'm going to say here, when the game doesn't set the checkpoint, now we can set the checkpoint when you trigger it, but what I'm going to say here is I want this from the day 1, not when you do reset. I want you to set this straight way up. So if I go to the properties of this checkpoint here, what I can set here is I want you now, default is to be active for all players. Yeah, it's for everybody. Yeah, you can do it on connection, it's for every different type. I'm not going to have it visible, I don't need you to see it, just have it switched off, but I want everyone to start on there as a default option. Yeah, so as soon as the game gets started, once we start moving, we will be set to that particular logic, and therefore I don't have to do anything on it. And as I say, the purpose of that is that when I sink the battleship, other players are going to be in their boat. They're going to fall into the water, but obviously you can't fall in the water. It's only all it is a tiled box with the colour format of water. So I can't let them go underwater. So what I'm going to do here is, like I did with the clip on how to walk the plank, I'm now going to do it. If you touch the ground, you're going to die. So what I need here is a trigger area. Okay, so the trigger area. And I'm now going to do it that if you should fall into the water, that's it, you are dead. Okay. So on here we go down. I'll set it on the side because I've got to make sure it's far enough back because the boat's going to move. So I've clicked that trigger area in. And like I say, if you watch my how to walk the plank clip, it's exactly the same thing here. So what I'm going to do now is go back to my creativity toys and get my kill switch. There's my kill switch, and I'll just move that out of the way, and I'll put that down with me start the other objects that I've just done, because it's all to do with ending a game and starting a game. So I'll put this over here. Okay. So all I'm going to do now is, if anyone enters this area, we're going to kill them. That's it. They're dead. And because the checkpoint's already set up, they'll just return back to the island. So new logic connection on entered by a player, by the way, not an object, by a player, any player. Yeah, we're going to kill them. So go down to the bottom, under the water, and can we set them there? Can we set that, and can we say they're defeated? Yeah, you could do defeat player or anything, but it's not. They're defeated. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go back up. I'm now going to stretch this out, and like I say, this is another reason why I set the island to be high up, so there was no building up section. So those may have created an island with a nice little slope. I didn't want the person to be running down into it, so here I'm just going to scroll this across. Now obviously it needs to be low enough so it doesn't kill you. See that there, if they walk on the boat they're going to die, so I just want to be a little bit lower. So let's move it across, give it enough space for the sinking ships. I'll bring it down. That should be just a good. That's a good enough little drop down, that one. If I move that back, that should be it. Okay. So I'm just going to stroke it. That's about perfect. Nicely under. The person on the ship won't die, and they're stuck there on the challenge. And there we go. Our game is now set. All we need to wait for now is for us to work out, once you've won the game, not only just want to celebrate, you actually want their ship to sink and the player to die. But that trigger area fills the whole map. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to test it. We'll do it with Jack Sparrow. So we're going to do the challenge and do the whole lot. So press our reset button. That clears and resets everything, which is good. We now go to our challenge marker. If there were 2 people playing, it would work. And we're now on our boat. And away we go. Right, so the spell sails off, it hits the first shot, our logic now triggers in, so it's now changed. Now hopefully there's another player on the other end. I'll keep in play 1 mode. Now when I finish this completely, I'm going to bring Jessica back. I'm trying to get George and the other daughter to join in, to try and do a little challenge, but I have to say, while I've been building this and testing this, I've got pretty good at shooting. So let's see if I can put this to the test. I found that this cannon, the artillery cannon, is better. Right, let's see what we can do. Right, take your time. Now it's easy when you're not under pressure. In one, okay, it's easy when you're not under pressure, but when other people are shooting at you and try to speed up, that's when you make more mistakes. Do you see that? That's 2 out of 2, just 2 shots. Perfect. 3 out of 3. Come on, can we make? Oh, this was the tricky one I got last time. Oh, I'm getting nervous now. I'm trying to get it. I quite like the cannons don't move that easy. It gives that little bit more hardness to get it on. Oh, I'm not too sure. I'm going to go for it. Nope. We're just going to have to see if I can cope when we actually play this as a 2-player game where I can keep under pressure. Come on. Oh, I'm going to go for the easier one here. Oh, I'm nervous. See, now remember, if you're playing a 2-player game, the other person is firing at the same time. It's a race against the clock to shoot your target. So I'm not going to have this luxury time, but that is 4 out of 4 shots. 5 out of 5. And you'll see now I've got my score. You'll now see that the bombardment occurs. Okay, and then we're moving around. So the game is now self-contained. All the logic we've set up over the last 4 clips, it all now manages now itself quite nicely. So we move around to the next point. Okay, and everything stems from the island. It loads us across, unlocks the level. It just all feeds itself quite nicely. Right, now while we watch this, if you've watched all these clips, you'll see I've done this ship battle all the time. Now my final game, I'm going to add a little variety to it, and I'm not going to show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to let you work that out. Oops, you would have thought I know where these are. But I'm just going to try and just change different things you can do with it, but it gives you an idea. You can have more collectibles, by the way, but again, more collectibles mean more logic to set up. I think 3 is not a bad number. Whenever you set these up, you always think one bigger. 3, 5, I think we're stretching the mark here. Right, come on now. This will be 6 out of 6. Come on, can I get it? Would that look? 6 out of 6. Come on, if we do another one. Yes, 7 out of 7. 8 out of 8. Oh, come on, this is a tricky one. This one, come on, 8 out of 8. Come on. Oh no, can't get it right. Let's go. 8 out of 8. Come on, can we do it? We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. 9 out of 9 shots. No way! That was bang on. Come on, you got a bit. That should have been 10 out of 10. I'm a bit gutted about that. So it's the same position. 11 shots, 10 targets. That's not bad going. Okay. Lee Swagger would be pretty impressed with that. And there's only a few people that know who Lee Swagger is. So if you do, put some comments if you know who Lee Swagger is. I quite like that film. Right, cool. That's moving across quite nicely. And we'll do the final set. Now obviously I can't now go to the other ship because as soon as I jump off it I'm going to die. Yeah, so we don't want that to happen. So you are stuck on the ship. If you fall off, that's it, game over, because you can't get back to your ship and the other person will win. So let's collect these. Oops, that was quite high, but it's just high enough. Up we go. Right, so there is one more pirate round to go, I'm afraid. So those that have loved the pirate stories, great. Those that are not into pirates, you've only got to put up with one more clip before we move on to the next ones. A couple of you have wanted me to do like a chase scene. I've also got Lord of the Rings type style. I've been working on like a Game of Thrones, which is very similar. Oh, look at that! I'm flying on this one. Trying to do like a Helm's Deep. But like I say, if I can think I can show you something new, I'll post it on there. I don't want to just keep doing clips just for the fun of it. Oh, I was robbed there. I was robbed. Oh, I've gone to pot now. I've cracked up. I've lost it. But I always try and think of new things. So chuck in ideas, but if I think I've covered it before in something else, I'll try and tweak it. So I'm always showing you something new. And like I say, I'm going to have clips throughout the year. Then there may be pauses between my clips. There we go, we're a winner. So sometimes after this series, I'll hopefully have one more next weekend, and then there may be a little gap for a few weeks while we finish them off. And there's your scoreboard displayed at the end of the round, and it'll show you who had the score with the most ones. So you could change this one, and it's a time limit. How many rounds can you win under the certain time limit? Yeah, the one with the most rounds wins. And you'll see now my ship's just going to keep rotating around. Now what we will do is that when we win, the boat will sink, so I want to do another game. So if I jump off into the water, I die, and I come back to the island, I can press my reset button, resets all my objects, and we're ready for a new game. Now we do have a game all set up. Now all we're going to do now is just make it look pretty and have it sinking and have the boats on fire and other bits and pieces. Well, I hope you like this clip. Please press like, that would be really good, and I'll get the other clip to you as soon as possible. Cheers guys, thanks for watching.